Beelzebub breaks into the castle of Hades in Helheim, defeating various guards, but has already sustained some decent amount of damage, finding the ruler's chambers where he's confronted. You don't appear to have accidentally stumbled into the king's chambers. What do you wish of me, Lord of the Flies Beelzebub as claimed by Hades? In which the god responds, so you are Hades. I challenge you to fight me. In which the Greek god responds with, I've been hearing rumors. A reckless fool who fell from heaven. He's been constantly picking fights with the beasts of Helheim. A mad demon resides within him, resulting in Beelzebub to prepare for the battle, activating his vibrations in one of his arms, claiming, if you already know, then enough words. However, Hades continues, all beaten up already, in that raggedy state. You challenge me? Have you a death wish? And that is exactly what Beelzebub has. If only you could kill me, and then the fight is on. Hades removes his weird eye thing, reveals that his name is the King of Helheim Hades, and accepts the Lord of the Flies challenge, in which it begins like this. The Greek god's divine weapon released, and Beelzebub's vibration preparing for the clash. Hades unleashes some of his power and easily sends Beelzebub flying out of the castle, smashing into a wall while Hades appears above him, in which Beelzebub outright concedes defeat right away. You sure are the king of Helheim, so strong, I cannot win. But with this, I can finally die, as he's already crying, and then Hades has a second thought on what's going on, questioning the Lord of the Flies on why he wishes to die so badly, and why he really came all this way just to die, where he reveals what's going on with him. He tries to take his own life, but fails due to two things. First is the Satan within him, and second, the curse of Lilith, highlighting that anytime he tries to give himself up to various monsters, mysteriously he defeats them all, he does not face defeat. As such, the battle is off, and Hades says this. Such a fool. I don't know what happened between you and that Lilith, but even someone like myself can tell what she meant to say. That tattoo is no curse, it's a prayer. She wished for you to continue living, no? Then rather than wishing for death, shouldn't you be asking yourself, how should I live instead? Perhaps you should give another thought to what she bequeathed you with. If the answer you find is still that you wish to be killed by me, then come back to me when you're in actual fighting shape. Therefore, we clearly see that Hades easily defeated Beelzebub in this situation at some point in the past. However, a rematch and more realistically, a real fight would be an entirely different story. Here is exactly why. So the next time Beelzebub pulls up on Hades, the Greek god naturally questions whether he's here to be killed by me, in which he responds with no, but also makes it clear that he hasn't given up on his goal of facing death, killing the Satan within him, coming to the conclusion that a death that Hades could give him wouldn't really be enough. I thought long and hard, and I had a realization. I must continue to live in such a way that when Beelzebub finally dies, it will be as horrifically as possible, as the ultimate atonement for what he's done, resulting in Hades to give him a divine weapon, this staff, something that matches perfectly with his abilities, naturally making Beelzebub many times more powerful, and Hades to say this. Now that you've got that, you won't be going down easily, no, highlighting that due to Hades, Beelzebub in a sense has become an even more bothersome fellow, potentially even compared to Hades, bringing us to a breakdown of what would really happen between an all-out fight a rematch between these two gods. Therefore, let's have a look at what Hades has demonstrated throughout the Record of Ragnarok series and how strong this god really is. A monster has spawned within round 6 to face Buddha in Record of Ragnarok. The Valkyries have no idea who and what it is. He reveals that his name is Hajun and wants to try out these powers on the Enlightened One. We cut to the Norse gods who have no idea what's going on. Likewise for the Greeks, Hermes, the main explainer dude throughout the entire story up to this point, is stunned, and Zeus and Odin are left speechless. Then someone arrives. His presence results in the god of war Ares to shake uncontrollably, claiming that is no god, taking his seat without question. This is Lord Hades, the king of the underworld and eldest of the Greek brothers, who prior to his reveal in chapter 50 has only been highlighted in this panel, learning that his brother Poseidon had lost, making his way to Valhalla where we see him here. We then learn that he's regarded as the most reliable god and changes the entire Record Ragnarok story, participating in this tournament when he wasn't on the original roster and having a major role in many other characters leading into the future. So boys, a 10% discount is available for all these GameStop flavors available for you. Check it out, link at the top of the description. Everything helps the channel greatly. Now to begin, let's have a look at his backstory, something broken down by Ares when questioned on who is Hades to the other gods, highlighting that there are many things to talk about in regards to his strength, skill, him being a legendary god, a king, someone whose name many gods don't dare to take in vain, already providing similar vibes to the likes of Poseidon, someone recognized as the most feared god, but a major difference is present. Hades is the god who others rely on the most, hence the most reliable god, connected to a certain war long ago. Previously we learned in Zeus's flashback that he defeated his father Cronus to become the supreme god of the Greek realm. But here in the flashback for Hades, we learn that the primordial goddess Gaia did not accept this outcome, resulting in her spawning various giants to go in an all-out war with the Greeks, something that theoretically shouldn't be that much trouble for these overpowered warriors. However, we see that Hades got informed that back in the underworld, Tartarus, the main prison of the gods, is going through some major issues relating directly to the Titans imprisoned. The ones imprisoned escaping here are regarded as the main allies of Kronos, who are using this giant invasion as an opportunity to escape and attack the Greek realm from both sides. This is where the mad lad Hades does something wild in response. All the other Greeks, including the likes of Apollo, were able to defeat the giants, while Hades alone faced the escaping titans without telling any of them, claiming victory with a pure massacre. A showing that when Poseidon was told had this reaction from him, and featured a scene of him calling Hades brother for the first time, showing next level respect, something never shown from Poseidon before or after this in the story, highlighting just how respected Hades truly is, as even the coldest god has it for him. Additionally, he was also a key person that led to a Damas who was seemingly killed by Poseidon in his flashback to survive, as Hades ordered Hermes to take him to Beelzebub, the other very cold god fighting in this tournament, and the one closely connected and demonstrates insane respect for Hades. This is initially highlighted during his fight against Huang, where Beelzebub believes there's pretty much no possible way to think Hades would lose. But coming back to Hades and what he's actually demonstrated in the story, throughout Buddha's fight with Hajun, Hades was there to explain what Hajun was, as he was aware of the legend associated with it. But one of the most interesting things I noticed is Hades being pretty much the only one understanding what Buddha is doing and key aspects throughout the fight, particularly at the end when Buddha was able to claim victory in that very wild way. We see a reaction shot from all these gods. Zeus, Hermes, and importantly Odin is pretty much freaking out, stunned. Everyone is, apart from Hades, who's simply vibing. And then after this, The Mad Lad directly changes the record Ragnarok story by adding himself to the gods roster and fighting next. This is where Kun Shi Huang is selected to defeat this monster. The first emperor of China in real world history and pure Gigachad in record Ragnarok. But before he was revealed to the story, Brynhilde was considering him as a fighter for Poseidon in round 3, and the second Hades was revealed as the god's fighter for round 7, Huang was chosen as the only one to take down this monster, king versus king, with Brynhilde's confidence in this choice being unlike any other in the entire tournament. For example, Hades is a god that ability wise is not really that overpowered. He's someone that specializes in insane raw power with impressive speed and analytical abilities, highlighting his experience and skill as a chief god. But overall, he can be broken down as just another Poseidon with stronger single strikes. However, the way the record of Ragnarok gods hype up Hades and highlights him as the most reliable cannot be ignored. Even Poseidon respects this man, and Hades fuses the remains of his fallen brother Poseidon's weapon with his own. The battle between kings now begins. Huang gives Hades the chance to attack first with his thrust, one that was meant to kill. However, the Chinese emperor dodges it slightly alongside all of the follow-ups. However, the power behind the god's attacks are so much that the wind coming from them is powerful enough to wound the king. You cannot simply dodge Hades here. Thus, Huang takes the next attack head on, a named one on top of that. Everyone watching should know why that's important. But the Mad Lad counters the strike with this combo, alongside deflecting it back directly at the god, sending Hades flying, revealing the first part of this human's fighting style, the Chi-Yu armor form, heavily hand of defense, a key aspect of his martial art, and is referred to as the ultimate martial art with different forms that you'll see throughout this fight. For example, the armor form was used to clown on Hades in this first exchange, and even saying to the ruler of the underworld, there can only be one king in the world, and that man is I. Truly goated stuff. But now Hades is trying a different type of attack, one with all of his might and from above, naturally resulting in the armor form to be used, which seems to save the king at first, but Hades is not done. He unleashes all of his force in an attempt to crush the human, successfully dealing major damage, marking the sign of the real fight beginning. As something occurs, the blindfold has been removed. Domain expansion. Wait, wrong series. This is how he really looks and is ready to continue, which it does right away, and results in the Emperor being in a similar situation as before, resulting in the use and reveal of his next key ability, the air bubble he blows at the god that seemingly stops the overwhelming strength coming from Hades and allows him to use the armor form to counter. However, the intensity is here right now with a follow-up, counter, and dodge with something strange occurring. Huang, upon looking at the wound on Hades, seemingly gets damaged himself, shaking off the pain to continue and landing another air bubble into a combo, this time the spear form with a direct strike doing considerable damage, leading us into learning about this strange air bubble attack used to change the flow of the opponent's technique by hitting a crucial point or the crux of their power, something within all living creatures that Huang naturally sees as stars, meaning he is capable of weakening someone to a major degree by simply breathing on them, an attack you cannot see or seemingly dodge without knowledge of it, making this his crossbow form. Pretty overpowered as many of you are probably realizing, but something so broken for a human results in a huge downside. This eye-based ability Huang wields also results in him receiving the same pain that he sees, explaining the blindfold at the start and further respect for this Mad Lad during this fight. He knows the pain of others, as such, he is the greatest king. Now once the fight gets going, we see Hades now counter the air bubble attack and land close enough that the wind impact does damage with his swings, alongside a knee landing that sets up Huang to take a major blow, but the king managed to land an air bubble once again, bringing out his halberd form with this kick, an attack that was blocked but still did decent damage to Hades, the Greek ruler, a showing that has him fully accept Huang as a worthy king, and to respond, he unleashes his blood. Pretty much this god's transformation that features his weapon feasting on the god's blood, revealing that it's indeed alive and growing even more powerful, but this also is limited as it's absorbing the life force of Hades, meaning the longer it occurs, the more chance Hades is going to die. But with that said, since Hades damages himself here, the pain is also inflicted on Huang, who watched it directly, something you cannot forget about when considering what's going on in this fight. But now, due to the blood surrounding Hades, he can counter the air bubble in a more reliable manner, alongside the power increase being so great that Huang's heavily handled defense has no chance of working, suffering a major blow from the god. His arm seems to be destroyed. He must give everything alongside his Valkyrie for a chance to win now. Therefore, she transforms into a sword, revealing that this Valkyrie's unique ability is called Host Guard. The greatest defense is also offense. The final stage of the fight is here, where we see the Chi-Yu sword slash against the insane strike from the amped up god, a clash that was not close. Hades won and sliced off the human's entire arm, something that would have most others defeated by this point, but as the Chinese king lays there, he claims it's beautiful, the star he sees, and locks back in with one arm. Hades begins to unleash the very same attack, the one that just dominated this human, with everything he has left for the purpose of claiming victory. Guess what this Giga Mad Lad does? He uses the armor form heavily handled defense with his sword as it clashes with Hades, buying him enough time to unleash the air bubble in the middle of the exchange, landing it on the weapon of Hades, something that previously established is technically alive, therefore it can be weakened by hitting its crux of power, now sending all the power back with his armor form, destroying the god's divine weapon, leaving every other god and human watching stunned, and finishing the greatly respected Hades with a follow-up slash, winning round 7 of Record of Ragnarok for humanity, putting them in their first ever lead, alongside hitting that glorious victory pose like a true mad lad. But it cannot be ignored that Hades is one of the most polarizing gods in Ragnarok. Some fans think he's trash and one of the weakest so far, a view that naturally makes Huang seem less impressive, with claims that he only won due to being a direct counter to Hades as well, and others ranking him around the top based on this narrative and continued hype. So to be fair and as objective as possible in today's video, I need to consider both sides, therefore I have to be around the middle. And I get the sense that the authors kinda regret killing him off to a degree, as after his defeat, many side chapters were actually dedicated to him alongside a lot of promotional material, with him being portrayed as the smartest, or if not one of the smartest gods in the entire series, that's for sure. But just simply lacked ability wise, my main disappointment I've expressed before, and kinda got very unlucky in the finale of his battle against Huang due to his weapon technically being alive, giving the Chinese mad lad exactly what he needed to claim victory in that wild way, but also concluded that battle with his opponent being pretty much the most injured victor to this day, as Huang, since defeating Hades, has not returned to the story after over 50 chapters still. This is the last time we saw him, never mentioned again, quite wild. And now officially brings us to the Beelzebub section of today's video, where I'm going to be fully breaking down how strong this god really is, and why he's probably stronger than Hades and would defeat him in a one-on-one match. Something at first which requires to break down his victory over Tesla in the Record of Ragnarok tournament. Humanity has taken the lead with back-to-back wins. The most respected god Hades was slayed by the Chinese king, resulting in rage from all the gods, so much so Adamas actually pulled up on Brunhilde and Gol, attempting to kill them. However, they were saved by Beelzebub, who's here to warn them about the destruction of humanity and what's coming next. As a response, Brunhilde decides to pick a certain warrior for humanity's round 8 fight. Someone who's been waiting in this room since the very beginning, humanity's one and only sorcerer. It is him, Nikola Tesla, the ultimate scientist, who is here to defeat the gods with the power of science, meeting his Valkyrie right away and revealing what he's been doing since the start of Ragnarok, further expansions of science with this otherworldly knowledge, performing the volume known as Magic Wielder, resulting in his mech suit which he'll be using to fight the gods, known as Super Automation, claiming that this is our time to indeed surpass the gods. On the other hand, Beelzebub has approached Hermes so we can tell Zeus that he's going next. This is Record of Ragnarok round 8, Nikola Tesla vs Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies. A clash that featured very different walkouts, but both respectable in their own right, and the fight officially begins with Tesla checking out Beelzebub, wondering if he has any unique material on his body. But as a response, Beelzebub cracks his staff on the ground, unleashing a powerful attack that forces Tesla to dodge, screaming that it's science. This is because Beelzebub's ability connects to the use of vibrations, and is followed up by him charging with his hand out, forcing Tesla to barely dodge once again, but damage has already been dealt, resulting in a counter, the use of the mech suit to zip around the arena and land his own powerful attack, ones that force Beelzebub to dodge as a response. This is the beginning of Tesla's plasma pulse punches, and features various combos that allows him to catch Beelzebub off guard and seemingly land an attack. However, it was in fact unsuccessful. Beelzebub blocked it with his shield-based vibration ability enhanced by his staff, and followed up with his own offensive means as well, something that required Tesla to use both of his fists simultaneously. A true clash of power is occurring right now, and Beelzebub is able to unleash even more vibration-based power, overwhelming the human and dealing once again major damage on his opponent, easily taking the lead in the fight thus far. Therefore, as a response, Tesla begins changing stuff up a little bit, but this is after actually praising the god for his fighting style. However, Tesla has been planning something from the very beginning. Out of nowhere, his mech suit begins to react to the arena, lightning is going everywhere, and he creates an entire cage, in a sense a fly trap. This is the Gematria zone, the prison of the gods, something that allows Tesla to float mid-air with his mech suit, and in this place, this is where he becomes the god. Charging with increased speed once again, close-up combat that Beelzebub is once again able to block. However, this time some damage was able to get through and slice him up somewhat. Then the insane combos with unpredictable movement begins occurring. Beelzebub is able to react to seemingly everything and block most of the major damage. This includes landing his own counters and enhancements with his staff. However, Tesla is not stopping and getting more wild with his Tesla steps. Beelzebub is starting to get in trouble, but stopping himself from facing any major damage, demonstrating how overpowered his defense really is, and has completely shut down the Tesla step, forcing the human to go further beyond, unleashing his next set of abilities, literal teleportation, with him catching Beelzebub completely off guard with an attack that explodes the entire arena. The aftermath has resulted in major damage finally being landed on Beelzebub, who is now threatened by Tesla's new ability, the Tesla Warp, something he can only use a few times throughout this battle. However, as we just saw, it's insanely dangerous and truly highlights how humanity can continue to progress, resulting in Beelzebub to unleash a certain ability that has been deemed as taboo. This is known as Chaos and seemingly blows up the entire arena and affects many parts outside of Valhalla as well, something unlike anything else we've seen in all of Ragnarok, and highlights Tesla surviving but insanely damaged, with all of his power being used just to survive it. However, the damage also was inflicted on Beelzebub himself, next level vibrations that combined his own power in combination with the Staff of Olympus, bringing us to the final stage of the fight. Beelzebub now acknowledges Tesla as truly amazing, while the human highlights that as long as science continues to grow, humanity will never die, resulting in an exchange between the two once again. Tesla is zipping around the arena while Beelzebub dodges and blocks most of his attacks. However, both have been insanely damaged, particularly Beelzebub from unleashing his previous attack, beginning to get somewhat overwhelmed, but can still completely change the turn of the battle with a single attack, landing directly on Tesla once again, and highlights that his mech suit is beginning to fail. However, Beelzebub does not stop, putting his life on the line for the first time in this fight as he attacks Tesla, resulting in the Curse of Lilith beginning to activate. This is something that connects to Beelzebub's flashback and limiting the Satan from within him from coming out, at least in some type of way. When Beelzebub is throwing his life away or trying to get himself killed, the demon within comes out and pretty much saves him every time. However, this situation is different. He is not trying to get himself killed, he is simply offering up his life. Therefore, the curse stops and Beelzebub unleashes another all-powerful attack, one that Tesla is not able to dodge, therefore he can only block and faces major damage once again, but of course manages to survive due to the future of science and screams incredible. This is time for the final clash. Beelzebub begins blocking some of Tesla's combos, but then we have the Plasma Pulse Punch Morbius coming out, seemingly an infinite combo of blows that begin to overwhelm Beelzebub's unstoppable defense. Lightning and insane power is going everywhere throughout the arena. Tesla has broken into the realm of the gods. However, similar to many other rounds, the fighter is still human, and the effects from Beelzebub's taboo technique known as Chaos have been demonstrated once again. The vibrations were a special kind and even resulted in internal damage on Tesla due to being hit by it, forcing him to try another approach, an insane combo unlike anything ever before. The next progression of science and his abilities. He teleports one of his arms this time directly behind Beelzebub, simultaneously attacking with his remaining one, the Plasma Pulse Punch Cross, the checkmate in this fight. If only Beelzebub wasn't simply built different. He manages to block the teleported arm and the Tesla in front of him and land the finishing blow by piercing the human's heart instantly as well, resulting in Tesla to praise the god, show his respect, and remind everyone that humanity will continue to progress. Beelzebub has indeed won against Nikola Tesla in Record Ragnarok Round 8 after 18 minutes of insanity, and clearly demonstrated that he's very overpowered without a doubt. Both of them were, with continued showings later on in the Ragnarok story, such as being involved in the clash between Buddha and Odin, actually stalemating with the Norse god here, calling him out and wanting to continue the battle regardless of Thor and various other characters pulling up, highlighting his confidence. And in conjunction with the current round, which of course is round 12 Odin vs Kentucky, with the Norse god getting probably the most glaze we've ever seen for a god during his introduction, likely just means good things for Beelzebub's overall power, as it's looking like Odin will end up being the strongest character in the entire series. And on top of all of that, we have the Satan narrative with Beelzebub as well. Beelzebub as a god is viewed as the one cursed by Satan, or at least the others believe that, and that every god involved with him will experience misfortune until they eventually lose their lives in a very specific way outlined here, leading into almost everyone to avoid him until these three angels, with one of them literally being Lucifer. That angel also dropped the claim that Satan is believed to be some ancient monster, something that is probably just superstition, leading into them becoming friends, best friends from Beelzebub's perspective, which is important for stuff I'll reveal later on. However, he wakes up one day and sees blood everywhere, with all three angel friends dead, in the same way Satan's legend claims, resulting in Beelzebub to believe what he's been told his entire life, that he is cursed by Satan and that Satan is real, finding his ultimate goal to kill Satan and get revenge for his friends. Spending all this time researching everything, alongside the help of Lilith, a goddess revealed to be a childhood friend of Lucifer, searching together everywhere, the edges of Valhalla and the deepest parts of Helheim, to no success. Beelzebub even had dreams about Satan, and upon falling in love with Lilith, it was revealed that Beelzebub was Satan all along, killing his love, described as demonic destrudo, which results in Beelzebub to kill anyone he is in love with or is very close to, realizing that Satan had always been within him. Therefore, Beelzebub is Satan and has spent his remaining days trying to get himself killed, whether it be the creation of various monsters, jumping Hades, or using Zero to revive the demon lord Hajun, all for the sake of him being killed, the death of Satan. An aspect of the story and Beelzebub's character that still remains quite mysterious and has even gotten more confusing in recent time due to the primordial god flashbacks we've received, where we saw the fellow Yggdrasil, like the original Odin, known as Satan as well. So there may be some connection brought up in the future, meaning Beelzebub stocks are just going up once again. But let's have a more detailed look at his abilities and break down his complete scaling in the Ragnarok story, which leads into why he would likely destroy Hades in a fight. So like pretty much every Ragnarok character at this point, he does have quite a few insane statements. However, the situation around comparing translations, whether it be fan translations up to the current manga chapters, the physical viz release, or even the anime, it's all over the place and you can come to various conclusions. As a whole, every god, every human gets insane amount of respect and glaze with statements, some better than others, but overall you can argue pretty similar stuff when it comes to Hades and Beelzebub in that regard. But on a basic level, his ability connects to the use of vibrations and should be durability negating considering the feats he's shown throughout the story. That is without the staff, something that outright enhances his offense and defense when being used, very clearly having the best defense in the entire Ragnarok story, with some panels even claiming that his shield can repel the almighty Thunder Hammer, highlighting that Beelzebub should theoretically be able to block all of the attacks from Hades. Yes, you can argue some stuff between the Greek god and the Thunder Berserker, however, broadly speaking, the argumentation probably falls on Thor's side better when it comes to overall power and divine weapon power. However, you would hope both of them would be able to break through Beelzebub, at the very least, considering some Tesla showings throughout. But the one thing for sure is he struggled and more so relied on his teleportation to catch Beelzebub off guard and get through his defense, leading into one of the most underrated things about the Satan in the series. His ability to adapt an insane reaction speed that's to literal teleportation. Some of the best speed feats in the entire series are outright wielded by Beelzebub here, and bro just progressively adapts and gets stronger throughout his battles seemingly. And then we have his definitive most powerful attack, his ultimate win con in pretty much every verse battle, that being Chaos. Something that I guess can't be really avoided, and even if you manage to block the initial impact, over time it's going to take you out, as I broke down during his Tesla fight. So if Beelzebub theoretically wanted to unleash Chaos on Hades, there's really nothing he can do in a setting of a Record of Ragnarok arena unless he can just nullify it somehow, some way. Doesn't seem likely based on what it's demonstrated. So realistically, it's hard to really argue for Hades unless you're going through some goofy narrative stuff, which honestly isn't helping you as the story has progressed more in Beelzebub's favor. Therefore, at the end of the day, this is still Record of Ragnarok. Definitively speaking, we don't exactly know what would happen in a rematch between these two. Hades is, as we know, no longer alive, so it can't exactly happen. But based on what they've demonstrated throughout the series, and any future ranking, Beelzebub will indeed be much higher and remains as one of the strongest gods we've ever seen. Let me know what verse battle you want next here on Mysterious Weeb. Make sure you're subscribed and watch the playlist with all the other Ragnarok content you need.